I've got here this 2010 Jeep Wrangler with this junk interior, which by the end of this video we're gonna fix it with using this Sony XAV 4000 head unit, which has wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and it has LDAC, which means there's gonna be lossless audio quality from your factory sound system. Let's see how we can do it.
Now for the next part of the install, you want to remove this top panel here using a plastic trim removal tool. Put your trim tool on the corner and just pry it out like so. Do the same thing on the other side and this panel will come out. Once the panel is out, there's one connection underneath the panel. You can just press and pull the connection out. This panel can sit on the side. Now for the next part of the install, we need to put the car into drive so it's out of the way, and then we can remove the two bottom panel here without damaging anything. You just turn your car into ignition, press onto the brakes, and then you can go all the way back into your drive or your manual gear selection. Once you have the gear selector out of the way, you can pry the bottom panel here, the one holding the net. Same thing on the other side. Once you're done removing your top panel and putting on the side, you can pry out this bottom panel with the net. Using the same plastic tool, you want to wedge it in on the side and the panel will pop out. There's one clip on either side, and once you have taken that out, this panel will slide out and you can put it to the side. Now there is 1, 2, 3 and 4 7mm screws that you have to get out in order for you to remove the fascia. You can use either hand tools or use a low torque impact to do the same. Once you're done removing all those 7mm screws, you can start prying out the fascia. Make sure not to go too heavy because these fascias are really fragile and they can crack very easily. You want to make your way from top down and then tackle any pin that you get slowly. Yeah, another thing you have to keep in mind is there's gonna be several different connections behind this, which you want to make sure you remove it and not to pull on any wires. There's gonna be a lock-in connector at the back for your windows and your switches, so you want to make sure you remove that. Now this connection here at the back can be pushed to one side and then you can press and pull it out. That is the locking pin mechanism that you want to pull out before you can press and pull this clip out. There's a few more connections at the back. Once you have removed everything and all the clips attached to it, you can put the fascia on the side and then we can start working on the head unit removal. Now this is what the panel looks like from the back side, and I'll give you a run through each and individual pins and plugs that you need to remove. The first one being your window switches, then there is your climate control and your... Now here will be all of your HVAC. There's two clips here that are a bit hard to get out. They go in and they connect to your HVAC system on each side. There's one pin, a big one with a locking mechanism at the bottom. You want to pull it and then you can press and pull it out. There's just a press clip here, another one at the bottom, and there's two for your 12-volt outlet. Once you're done with undoing all of those clips and pins, this panel can sit on the side and we can start working to remove the actual factory radio. Now the next step in the process of installation is removing the factory radio, for which we have to take 1, 2, 3 and 4 7mm out. Make sure every time you're removing any screws from the car, you want to keep it safe, as you would need them to reassemble the car. Every time I take a screw out, I just put them in the glove box. Now once you're done removing those 7mm from the side, the factory radio can swivel and come out. Once you have swiveled the factory radio out, there's not a lot of room for the wires at the back. There's 3 connections at the very bottom, so you can hold it with one hand and go underneath and remove all those connections. That will detach the factory radio, and this can sit on the side for now. Now this here is what you get in the box inside the Sony XAV AX4000. It's your GPS module, your reverse camera and your sub input if you want to. There's a microphone in there and your USB-C extension, along with obviously your power wire. And this here is what you would get: steering wheel control retention. This car does not have steering wheel control. However, since this car is running on a CAN-bus system, it is mandatory to put in the steering wheel control module.
Now what I'm doing here is cutting off the ISO plug and hardwiring it to the kit that came with the Sony harness. All that I'm trying to do is match color to color for my speaker wiring from the ISO harness chopped off into the Sony power harness, alongside connecting my amp remote to turn the amp on from the head unit side, as well as connecting the orange light for the illumination on the Sony head unit.
Now it's time to mount your GPS and your microphone. So for your GPS, you want to take your A-pillar out. I forgot to record that section. In order to take A-pillar out, you want to remove the sunshade using 2 Torx 20, and then this big panel just sitting there will come out. Now once you have this top panel out, there's one more panel that you have to remove, which is just sitting here. It's sitting on 2 clips and a guiding pin. You can pull it towards you and this panel will come straight out. Now for mounting your GPS, you want to mount it in your A-pillar. That is the best location to mount your GPS. You want to clean and prep the surface so the GPS antenna will stick nicely. Along with your GPS, you want to route your mic going from your head unit side behind the glove box all the way up to your roof lining. Since there is no actual roof lining, there is this panel here, and you would want to mount your mic just behind your mirrors, facing towards the driver for the best audio quality when having any calls or conversations. Now, running your GPS from here to your A-pillar is very easy. There's a lot of space in the cavity down here. You can use something like a zip tie, or you can use something like a snake tool or a fishing hook. Just run the zip tie from the cavity to your A-pillar, then you can tape up the end connections for your microphone and your GPS on the other end of the zip tie and just pull it towards you. If you guys can see, I've mounted the mic from the kit up here. I've tried putting it underneath, but the panel doesn't seem to be sticking onto any glue. That's the best position I could think about. A lot of people do mount it right next to the steering wheel, just down there, but that's not an ideal position to mount your mic in. The best way to mount your mic is to have it in a position where there is no obstruction or interference between the speaker, the driver, passenger, and the actual microphone itself. Now, generally, if there is any factory wiring running through your A-pillar, you would want to tape it to that, make it all nice and neat. However, in this case, there is no factory wiring, so I'm using these small clips that you can buy off any hardware shop. These clips allow for you to run your wire without them going everywhere, and then I'm going to tape it with nice fabric tape. That way there is no rattling when this car is driving. So I'm going to mount a couple of these guiding pins until my wire gets next to the GPS antenna. Then I can tape them all up together nice and neat, and then they can all go to the factory radio side. Now, when you're taping the mic and the GPS together, you want to have enough length for them to go into your factory, or your new head unit position, and then after that you can bundle up the rest. That should be plenty of length to come to the head unit. So what I'm going to do is mount these ends onto my zip tie, using it as a snake tool, and then I can pull the zip tie all the way to the front. Now, when you're trying to bundle these wires up inside the cabin next to the head unit, you want to make sure you have enough room for the wires to reach to the designated port. And the rest of that can be taped up in a long bundle. Using some fabric tape allows for the bundle to not rattle around the car when the car is driving. So we're going to bundle it nice and neat with some fabric tape on it. Now, on the ISO plug, you can see there's two female plugs. Only one of them is going to plug in, so you would have to figure out which one is going to go into your car. And the other side will go into your new Sony head unit. There's a reverse trigger and a reverse power here, which is going to get tabbed onto a reverse camera that we're going to install now. All right, since we're also adding reverse camera, the camera is going to go here. That is the old camera that's coming out. Our new camera is going to mount somewhere here. That camera wiring is running through the grommet underneath the jack stand, underneath the panel. Once the camera wiring has been put into the car through the grommet, you can kind of route it through, go underneath the carpet. In here, remove this one Torx 30. Once you have that Torx 30 removed, you can run the wire underneath this carpet all the way to your B-pillar. And as you get to your B-pillar, you can remove the whole B-pillar panel using just clips and this door sill. Once everything is out, there's factory wiring running underneath there. You can tape up your camera wiring along with the factory wiring. You can go behind the carpet in there. There's a handheld screw that you have to remove. Once that screw has been removed, you can run the wire underneath the carpet up and out where your head unit is going to get mounted. That is the steering wheel control with the patch lead that you need to connect. One side will go into your ISO harness coming from your factory loom. The other side is going to plug into the back of the head unit. Since this car does not have the steering wheel control, you don't need to worry much about the self-learning and all these wires. However, if your car does have the steering wheel controls on there, you need to cut in one of these wires. They come in the instructions. Which one you have to cut according to your head unit. In this case, we don't need to worry about it. However, we do need this module because it's a CAN-driven wiring harness. Now, with your steering wheel control module plugged in, I would ideally tape it using some fabric tape, and then I can use double-sided tape on the back of the head unit to make sure that it doesn't rattle. Since it's not a very heavy module, you don't need to go crazy with the zip tie or double-sided. However, if you're mounting something heavy behind the dash, you always want to make sure it's held in very nicely and tightly with either zip ties, double-sided, whatever you want to use. In this case, we only need to worry about that. That's going to go to the back of the head unit. The other wires can get taped up, which are the key, ground, and key 2. Now, the next harness you want to look at is the one that will input your camera input. It also has input for your front camera and aftermarket speaker system. But this car is only getting the reverse camera, which I'm going to plug into here. And the power for the reverse camera should come in from your harness here. It says reverse on it. Now, just for testing purpose, I'm going to try to twist these together and do a testing. If everything is working fine, I'll take the head unit back out and then I can solder these on, make everything nice and neat with tape. and then the whole thing can start going back together. Now this is just a test fit for testing the whole system. CarPlay is working, sound's working, everything's working as it should. I'm gonna remove all of the connections now, make everything nice and neat at the back, start assembling the whole car, and the last process we have to do is to mount the rear camera. Now the wiring for the camera has been run. The only thing we wanna do is once the screen is in place, we wanna try a few different cameras, and whichever camera they select to go for, I'll just give it a mount, make all the wiring tidy at the back, and off we go. The whole unit has been put back together. Everything is working as it should. Sound's working, mic's working, audio is working, calls, music, GPS, everything's working as it should. That is wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. If you want this done to your Jeep Wrangler or any other car, send me an email here to see how I can help you.